There's no surprise today the nation of Japan is standing at the crossroads, especially when we talk about this economic agenda and the political direction. Again, paying closer attention to what's happening around the world today. Economy has been the top agenda for many nations across the spectrum. We're looking at this economic chaos in the US and also this economic uncertainty among the countries in Europe. But circling back to the nation of Japan, recently, this newly elected prime minister is taking bold steps towards the economic agenda. But also some believe that the first female prime minister is no feminist triumph at this moment. And given the fact there is so much on the plate and she has so many things to accomplish. How do we understand the role as the first female prime minister today, and why do you think it's so crucial to understand this change and also this political direction for the country? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to invite our distinguished speaker, who is Mr. Peter Chai. Peter Chai is the Ph.D. researcher at the Graduate School of Political Science, Waseda University. He holds a BA in economics and MA in political science from Waseda University. His research area are political sociology, comparative politics, and public opinion with a regional focus on East Asia. Well, Mr. Chai, and welcome to The Missing Piece.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely, Mr. Chai. It's such an honor to have you on the show. Now, initially, as I discover what you wrote in this amazing article, it's called Japan's Likely First Female Prime Minister is No Feminist Triumph. Well, by now, again, as we mentioned in the intro, this nation just successfully elected the first female prime minister. Now, let's start from the beginning. Why do you say that the first female prime minister is no feminist triumph? What do you mean by that? And also, how do you think that such character can contribute to the prime ministership? Your thoughts?
Takaichi is not really interested in promoting policies related to gender equality per se, because there are two pivotal issues in Japan on policy debate related to gender. One of them is allowing married couples to have different surnames, and another is about same-sex marriage. And for the first one, although she says that it's okay to have this called 刺绣men, but she is against allowing married couples to have different surnames. So yeah, that's one thing. And another thing that she made it pretty clear that she's no fan of same-sex marriage. So if you know the history of the same-sex marriage debate in Japan, actually a lot of regional courts, including high courts, such as Sapporo, such as Osaka and Nagoya, they've made decisions that not allowing same-sex marriage is unconstitutional. So basically, they've made rather consistent decisions on this issue. And in the future, it will go to the Supreme Court, because many of the high courts, they already made similar decision on the same-sex marriage. So even though this social progress, they are making this social progress, but still she is not in support of same-sex marriage. So these two pivotal issues, maybe she's not. So yeah, she doesn't want to promote these two pivotal issues. Yeah.
Before we tap into the same-sex marriage or we talk about the family tradition, I do want to go back to the article. Let's talk about something that she actually said during her victory speech, and also you included in the article. This is what she said, and I quote, "I will abandon the term work-life balance," adding that she will work, and work, end quote. Mr. Chai, from your perspective, we understand as the newly elected official, of course, that she wants to set up this admirable image for the nation. But meanwhile, this is such, correct me if I'm wrong, a bold promise to the nation that going to abandon the work-life balance. What does that mean? Is she showing some type of political promise? Or is that something much deeper behind the words? Your thoughts?
So Kaloshi has been a profound problem in Japan. So it's also related to mental health issues. It's related to suicide issues as well. So actually, Japan has been making progress on Kaloshi. So basically, companies, local governments, they've been promoting policies that actually address the Kaloshi problem. So I know that she was excited because she was likely to become the first female prime minister in Japan. So she wanted to make this kind of sound like a commitment to trying her best to devote herself in foreign policies or national policies or whatever. So she wanted to show this hardworking image. So yeah, but on the other hand, she received criticism from some nonprofits as well as some females on social media. So basically, there was a nonprofit organization. So they are the victims or the victims' families of Kaloshi people. So they say that conveying such a message to the public is not a good idea. You can convey such a message as an individual, but maybe not on a national level, like after winning as a leader of the LDP. So conveying such a message would be not appropriate for the victims and their families who suffered from Kaloshi problem. Yeah. And as I wrote in the question, so maybe some people also relate that to gender as well. So there is a outdated kind of stereotype or stereotypical thinking that female, they have to work very, very hard to outperform men in order to get more voice, to get more opportunities at work. So that is another hidden kind of message that is we can see from that victory remark. Yeah.
Mr. Chai, let's go back to what you mentioned before. Again, you had the specific data in the article when we talk about the decline of the same-sex marriage in Japan. And the number you mentioned that declined between 2022 to 2025, that from 53.6% to 52%, and from 46.4% to 44% respectively, completely reversing the steady progress that's seen since the 2016 upper house election. Correct me if I'm wrong, that people believe that Prime Minister Takaichi, she's very conservative, and her conservative view got well received, or should we say well adapted by so many aspects. So why do you think this is one crucial topic for her at this moment? And also, how do you think that when Japan, this nation, is standing at the crossroads when we talk about this economic agenda, why do you think people should also pay attention to this matter as well?
So so I got this data from the University of Tokyo and Asahi Shimbun collaboration. Like they published this data. So I use this raw data to make some analyses. So Japan has its upper house and its lower house. And 2025 there was the upper house election where the LDP lost its majority as well. Like the LDP lost its majority in the lower house election in 2024. So basically, I use the data. I look at the political candidates, their policy positions. So two issues that I mentioned earlier. One is whether they support same-sex marriage, and one is whether they support allowing different surnames for married couples. So basically, I found that in the 2025 upper house election, the political candidates, there is a backlash. So there was a progress, but in 2025, there is a backlash. So less political candidates support these two issues. And also, if you look at immigration, so they also kind of show a anti-immigrant stance. So Takaichi's position is not a standalone issue. So there is a general trend among political candidates in the upper house to show a more conservative, gender-related, and anti-immigrant sentiment. So that is not only the issue for Takaichi, but also for some other policymakers in the upper house as well. So there is a conservative backlash according to the survey data. Yeah.
Well, but when we talk about, again, I'm very glad that you brought into another issue. But again, I want to go back to the economic concerns. In Japan today, we're seeing the decline of the birth rates. I mean, again, not only Japan, but many countries, including the US, are very much anxious about the decline of the birth rates. And also, we are seeing the labor shortage in Japan particularly. So again, going back to the point is, she got elected based on the principles and the policies that are going to make drastic change for the nation. Same-sex marriage or change the surname, those things, again, correct me if I'm wrong, might not be as significant or might not be as important as the economy or might not be as important as for the younger generations to get jobs, etc. So again, where do those issues stand when we talk about the economy, when we talk about the decline of the population, especially when we talk about the labor shortage? What do you say to that?
Takaichi is known as a kind of a student of Abe. So basically, many people say that she advocates what is called the Abenomics, so low interest rate and quantitative easing. So, inflation has been a problem in Japan, and actually, it's been more stabilized compared to a few months ago. And so there are a few problems that she has to address when she is prime minister. One is the rising food costs, and one problem with that is rice in Japan. So basically, historically, the LDP had this tradition with the farmers, with the agricultural sector, that basically they protect them from foreign competition and to gain some kind of political support. But as the upper house election in 2025 and the lower house election in 2024 demonstrate that this kind of implicit agreement or this kind of tradition does not guarantee the LDP's majority anymore. And so in the future, I'm very interested in seeing how they are going to deal with the agricultural sector as well. And how are they going to deal with food prices? And compared to a few months ago, food prices, inflation has been more stable. So I'm very interested in how they are going to deal with interest rate, how they are going to deal with the rising government debt. So these problems. So even though many people say that Takaichi is a student of Abenomics, but still, because rising food prices and inflation rates are very important problems, and they are also important problems for the LDP's support base. So even though she is seen as a advocate for low interest rate, but I would predict that she wouldn't go that far with low interest rate to contain inflation and to get more support from the support base. So because as you said, surnames, same-sex marriage, they're not as important as economic issues probably in the upper house election and lower house election. So if the LDP want to retain support, they have to pay much attention to these food prices issues and inflation issues.
Mr. Chai, I will have one more question to ask before we move on to the next section of the conversation. Let's talk about this immigration issue. Recently, I've been reading so much about how the Prime Minister Takaichi, she has been very vocal about dealing with immigration issues. Especially, correct me if I'm wrong, she appointed the leader to be in charge of the immigration policy. She's also on the same page that very much, I want to be careful, not anti-immigrants, but more likely the policies are going to be more strict and also more particularly strategized under the current government. But right now today, globally speaking, we know that every single country is trying to figure out to bring in more international talents. So for the bigger picture, Mr. Chai, from your perspective, How do we understand that? Because we know that, for example, in the US, President Donald Trump running on the campaign trail, or even today, still running on the principle that make America great again, is to be anti-illegal immigrants. But meanwhile, we're looking at this immigration policy is getting very much stricted towards international talents. How do you think this picture is going to play out in Japan? And how do you think Prime Minister Takaichi is able to, I don't want to say solve this deadlock, but able to implement a feasible policy, continue to attract more talents to the nation of Japan? What do you think of that?
So this anti-immigrant issue has been a really hot topic for Japan and Japan observers. And I haven't included in the article for Nikkei Asia because it's basically focused on the gender equality and gender representation issue. But actually, there is a research done by a professor in Waseda University. So basically, it shows that from the 1980s and to 2023, the anti-immigrant sentiment among the Japanese public has been rather stable. So there has not been significant changes on anti-immigrant sentiment. So that professor used around 10 different public opinion polls by the government, academic institutions, and mass media. So it's a pretty comprehensive review. So basically, the public sentiment has not changed so much. And there's also another survey that surveys some CEOs, I believe more than 100 CEOs for top companies in Japan. And they show that basically more than 90% of the CEOs, they believe that foreign talent is important for their company. So they are willing to take in more foreign talent. So the public and the company's leaders, they have not shown significant changes in their attitudes toward immigrants. However, in the upper house election, as I mentioned, the same data sets, actually the political candidates, their position on immigrants have declined. So they have been more anti-immigrant. And as you said, actually during, I believe a few weeks ago, Takaichi said something about the problem with deer in Nara, right? So basically, she said that some foreigners, they, especially tourists, they are misbehaving, kicking the deer and all that. So yeah, maybe it's true that some tourists, probably because of lack of knowledge or because they are some deer, they are also pretty aggressive as well. So maybe if the deer becomes aggressive, then the tourists also become a bit aggressive to protect themselves, or some people are just want to have fun with the deer but in a inappropriate way. So this kind of things happen, but that only apply to tourists? No, they also apply to Japanese tourists from other cities to Nara as well. So yeah, and what I would like to say that Japan, the aging population problem, low birth rate. So basically, the commercial sector is very they value foreign talent as well, especially specialized skills, those with specialized skills. So multiple reports show that Japan needs specialized skills from the foreign immigrants and from the foreign students graduating from Japanese universities. So that is something that is necessary. So probably what Takaichi and some other political candidates are making the point is that some immigrants, they are not following the rules, and and some tourists, they are also not following the Japanese tradition, Japanese culture. But one problem that I feel they are making their remarks is that they don't distinguish well between what kind of foreigners they are talking about. Are they talking about the tourists, or are they talking about the students, or are they talking about the long-term residents, where they are talking about workers, or the couples or the partners of Japanese people who are having a foreign nationalities? So they mix up all the conversations. So this is kind of problematic because it's very important for them to make remarks that focus on different kind of scenarios. And as I said, Japan is really seeking. It's really important for Japan to have foreign talents. And maybe for tourists, yes, there should be more rules, and they should make some rules very clear for tourists so that they can follow, they can get to know what they should do in Japan, what they should not do. But for long-term immigrants, so basically Takaichi was talking about the tourists in Nara, right? But actually, she is not referring to the long-term residents. So basically for long-term residents, they already live in Japan for quite a long time. They pretty much know the rules and the cultural traditions in Japan. So, but still she's making references to the tourists. So she makes up certain conversations. So that is a problematic point to analyze what she talks about. Yeah.
Mr. Chai, I have two more questions before letting you go. We had a conversation just about domestic issues, but let's talk about some of the international concerns. Again, being the prime minister for the nation of Japan, again, you mentioned the previous prime minister Shinzo Abe, who tragically was assassinated, and again, but Shinzo Abe was well known for his diplomacy or the skill of diplomacy, especially with the US, with neighboring countries. But today, fast forward, 2025, Prime Minister Takaichi is going to meet sitting US President Donald Trump very soon. And this is going to be her first international relationship with outsiders, outside Japan. From your perspective, how do you think that we should project and we should understand that Takaichi's strategy to deal with international relationship or to deal with international partners or friends or even the nations that the leaders might not agree with Takaichi? What do you think of that?
So I think much media has focused on Takaichi's stance on, let's say, the East Asian region. So basically, I think she said something that she's going to build a stronger relationship with the United States. So these kind of remarks are not very welcome by mainlanders, Chinese mainlanders, I guess. And and I think that, but still, what she says is what she said, and we still need to observe what she does. Actually, one of the topics of the international media a few weeks ago was that she actually canceled a trip to Yasukuni Shrine. So I think she is pretty cautious about Yasukuni Shrine. So to not to worsen the relationship between countries like China and South Korea. So especially I guess there will be a APEC summit in the recent future. So some people say that her decision to cancel the trip to Yasukuni Shrine, one reason is that she doesn't want to make the issue bad before that summit. Yeah. So and still we need to observe what she does in the future. And even though many people say that she is a hardline, conservative, and nationalistic kind of leader, but well, that's when she was not prime minister. And as the first female prime minister, maybe we should expect different things from her. So even though I mentioned in the article that she was not a fan of same-sex marriage and she's been opposing separate surnames for married couples, but in the future, we should expect that maybe she might change some of her stances on gender issues, especially, as I mentioned, the same-sex marriage issues is going to the Supreme Court in the future. So that probably would also kind of change her stance on same-sex marriage as well. So we don't know about the future. So there might be some changes in her stances as well. So these are only her history. In the future, what her stances will be still need to wait for us to see. Yeah.
Mr. Chai, I want to wrap up our conversation by asking you the last question. Let's focus on the younger generation in Japan. We know that today, again, Prime Minister Takaichi, it's not an easy job for her to shoulder such responsibility. But meanwhile, for the younger generations, let's be more specific. What are the top one or top two issues that the younger generations are expecting her to make change. Maybe cultural issues, maybe social issues, even perhaps political issues. So I want to hear your final thoughts. I want to understand, by shouldering or by elected as the brand new prime minister, is there anything that the younger generations are expecting? Your final thoughts.
In the upper house election and in the lower house election, there are many more parties joining the diet. Basically means that Japan is becoming a more multi-party system, and it's more like European politics, where there are some populist parties, and also there are different parties as well. So Japan is becoming more multi-party. So one thing that comes along with this leaning toward multipartism is that there are hidden value cleavages that were unseen when the LDP was dominant. So there are more issues, like I said, issues like gender-related issues, immigration-related issues. These issues will become even more important in the future. That's my take. And so economy is important. Yes, it is important. Aging population, rising food costs, and inflation, and national debt. These are important issues. But for younger generations, I guess they are also very interested in value-based issues as well. Attitudes toward foreign people, attitudes toward minority groups, attitude toward disabled people. So these new left topics are also becoming very important in Japanese politics. So these issues were not that important previously. But in the 2024 and 2025 elections, there are huge changes in the political candidates' policy positions on these issues. So, and also there's another data. I didn't include it in the Nikkei Asia piece, but actually in the latest upper house election, there is a rise, around 5% or 6% rise in the turnout rate. So there are more people actually going out to the street to vote. And another thing is that, the Senseto, a lot of media covered the success of the Senseto. It's a right-wing populist party that has an anti-immigrant rhetoric. And its supporters, many of them are non-affiliated voters and young voters. So they perform pretty well in the upper house election among these two groups, which means that actually young people are becoming interested in attitudes toward foreign people and so on and so forth. So these political debates will continue in the future. And as Takaichi is becoming the first female prime minister in Japan, many people will also have a close eye on how she deals with some gender-related issues as well. And gender-related issues, immigration issues will also play important parts in the future lower house and upper house elections. And for the younger generations, these are also becoming important issues. Yeah.
Well, again, Mr. Chai, this is one of the exciting moments for the nation of Japan, successfully elected the first female prime minister. Again, ladies and gentlemen, such an honor to speak to Mr. Peter Chai. Again, Mr. Chai is a Ph.D. researcher at the Graduate School of Political Science at Waseda University, and I strongly encourage everyone go online to connect with Mr. Chai. And again, look for his amazing article on the current Prime Minister of Japan and also the global affairs. So, Mr. Chai, thank you so much for your time. We'd love to have you back on the show as we continue to pay attention to those matters. So thank you so much for doing this.